What's up, y'all? Tactical Outdoors bringing you another video today. Today I want to talk about malfunctions that you may have with the Glock or any handgun, but in particular a Glock. So, just a little bit about how reliable this Glock has been. It has about 2,000 rounds through it, and I've had one malfunction, and I think you can chalk it up to bad ammunition. It was a light primer strike. It was the only time it ever happened. It was one round. After it malfunctioned, I took the round out of the gun and put it on the side. Didn't try to shoot it again because, frankly, I don't know what would happen. I don't think anything bad would happen, but if the round didn't go off, there's probably something wrong with it. So, um, this Glock has been very reliable with no malfunctions other than that. Now, if you were to have a malfunction and you're on the range and you're trying to work through it, the process you would go through to clear the malfunction would be you would shoot, you'd hear the click, tap the bottom of the mag, rack it. If you pull the trigger and it clicks again, you want to drop the mag, rack it to clear anything that would be in the chamber, put the mag back in, rack it the chamber around, and then shoot again. Now, if it would still not shoot, there's probably something wrong with the gun, or it's probably not another malfunction unless your gun is very dirty and you have never cleaned it. So in that case, I would stop shooting, assess the problem, see what's wrong with it, field strip it if need be, and try to fix what's wrong with the gun. Now, some things that may be wrong that could cause a malfunction with a Glock would be a not properly seated magazine, and one thing that can cause that is overloading your mags, trying to jam in too many bullets, which if you use certain ammunition, it is possible. So if I were to put this magazine in the Glock up to right here, it'll stay. It won't fall out, but it's not seated. If you hear this, you heard it click, now it's seated, and it would chamber around if it was a loaded magazine. So that is very common. Some people just throw their mags in the gun and don't make sure it's properly seated. Now, another one would be if the gun is not in battery. Now, if it was me personally to fix that, you could just hit the back of the gun and try to force it in the battery. Me personally would try to drop the mag, rack it, and clear whatever was causing it not to go in the battery, and then chamber another round. Another thing would be a double feed after a failed ejection. So if something's wrong with your ejector or your extractor in the gun, and the gun cycles to the rear and it doesn't throw out the empty casing and it tries to feed another round into the chamber, and that first empty casing did not eject, it'll jam both of those casings forward and it'll just get the gun in a bond. And to clear that, it's going to require you to drop the mag, rack it to clear them, put it in, and chamber another round. Another malfunction cause would be a light primer strike. Like I said, that happened to me. The only thing I did was just rack the gun. It ejected the bad round, chambered another one. It was back ready to fire. Slide lock fail. This actually happens to me a lot because of the way I grip the gun. So on my grip, my thumb on my left hand, the meaty part of my hand, catches on the slide lock and it holds it from raising up when the empty mag tries to push it up to lock the slide back. And so when my magazine is empty, my slide will not lock in the rear. It will just cycle as if the gun was chambering another round. And in fact, there's nothing in the chamber, and I get that click when I pull the trigger. Another thing that can cause malfunction is what people call limp wrist, and that would be when you're holding the gun and it recoils. If you let the gun rise and you have a loose wrist, it won't have anything holding the frame of the weapon in place so that the slide can actually move along the frame and cycle the way it needs to. And it will only half cycle, and then your wrist will raise and then come back down, and it won't be able to eject an empty casing and then chamber a new round. So limp wrist is also another thing that can cause malfunctions, and for you to diagnose that, you just need to know the way you're shooting, video yourself shooting, see what you're doing wrong, see what you're doing right, and fix any problems you may have with your grip or the way you're holding the gun. Like I said, with the thumb on the slide lock, or anything user operator induced needs to be fixed by you, and anything the gun is doing needs to be addressed. You can take it apart, clean it. Even though Glocks don't need to be cleaned, they're known for being reliable. They do need to be cleaned, just not very often. Clean it or just replace whatever's, if something's broken, or upgrade whatever's going out. Some parts need to be replaced. For example, your recoil spring, I've heard, needs to be replaced after 5,000 rounds have been shot through the gun. Glock recommends you change your recoil spring, which is that spring underneath your barrel right there. That's your recoil spring. That is what forces your gun back forwards after the exploding round, forces the slide to cycle back in the gun. That's what brings it back forwards, is that recoil spring. So of course, after a lot of shooting, that's going to be needing some attention and need to be replaced. So that's a little bit about Glock malfunctions, how you can address them, how you can identify them, and how you can fix them. Also, how you can work through them if you're training to do so. If you're training to work through malfunctions, you can go ahead and do that. And one good tip to train through malfunctions is snap caps. That's what I use. I'll mix them in with a loaded magazine. I'll load 3 magazines at a time, put this in one of the magazines in a random place. Just pick up the magazines without looking, put them in my pocket, start shooting. That way you have no idea when that dummy round's coming up. And all it is a dummy round. It's just a piece of plastic that fits in the gun. And the gun will chamber it like it's a round, but you have no idea it's in there. And then once you hear that click, go through your procedure of how to clear it. And these are also good because you can put a little rubber gasket on the back of them to where you can change if it'll actually eject or if it will not eject. So if you want it to not eject, you put the rubber, and then to clear it, you would have to drop the mag racket, do all that. And if you want it to eject, as to just demonstrate different types of malfunctions, you can take that little rubber piece off and just rack your slide. It should pop it right out, chamber another round, and you should be good to go. So that's all I have on malfunctions of Glocks, how to fix them, how to identify them. And thanks for watching. Y'all stay tuned for the next video.